Welcome back, Billiken fans. It's Zach Miller, Peter Hale. This is the Midtown Madness Podcast. Now, before we get going, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe and drop a comment down below. It helps with the engagement. If you hear something that we talk about that maybe, we missed or make a mistake on, comment. This episode and the whole season of the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Not only is it Billikens season again, but as we head further into fall, both NFL and NHL seasons are back in action, and goes great with football on Sunday, salsa. You know what goes great with hockey any time of the week? Salsa. Whether you like it mild or hot, chunky or cantina style, the people over at Two Men have you covered. You can pick up their many products at any local grocery stores or online at twomeninagagarden.com. Follow them on all social media at Two Men Salsa. Pete, we took a week off to rest up for a big season ahead. We have no shortage of things to talk about. A big weekend of fall wins for Billiken Athletics.
Yeah, that's right. And it's really both of our soccer teams keeping things going, doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then, men's basketball picking up an exhibition win. Wasn't always pretty, but they did it. And it's getting a little brisk outside, and fall sports are wrapping up.
But first, the big news of the week, my favorite news of the week, SLU soccer programs have named the Herman Stadium press box in honor of Mr. Soccer, Bill McDermott. There is positively not another person on this planet that deserves it more than him, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Soccer himself. I mean, synonymous with the program. Just such a good steward of not just the program but the entire school. And we had the good fortune when we were in the early days of this show to have him on and talk with him for a little bit, and it was just delightful. I mean, he's just such a positive guy. He really knows his stuff, and he really cares about SLU in every regard. And it was so nice to be able to chat with him, and hopefully we'll do that again soon.
I think the best part is, I was bummed that he, isn't doing the PA for the women's games during the A10 tournament, but I ended up not being able to go on to the Loyola game, and listening to him is just, he drops in so many Easter eggs for the soccer fans that have, followed the game for years and that know the history. It's unbelievable, his wealth of knowledge and references.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, selfishly, I always like hearing him because he's got a good St. Louis accent.
Oh,
And
Washington, yes.
he
Yes.
really does. He really does. And that always, when I hear him, I always get a little wistful for home.
He had a really great quote, Pete, when he, spoke amid having the press box named after him.
What you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others. And it's one of those things that you may kind of, it looks good, engraved in a stone monument. And he's one of these people who actually believes that and lives like that, and has impacted so many people in and around his life in the SLU community and elsewhere. And he practices what he preaches. That's for sure.
Yeah, I sent him a text, and I've had the good fortune of sharing the press box with him at one point. How I ended up being able to do that is insane. I don't even deserve to be on the same level. He really is. I mean, the times I spend that press box listening to him talk, I'll never forget those. So he's been a great friend to me, and the program too as well, obviously. So absolutely love Bill McDermott. Couldn't be happier for him, and it's a long overdue honor, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's so cool to see his name up there.
Men's basketball. Let's overreact to an exhibition game, Peter.
Yeah, let's. And it's a little hard for me too because I kind of have to do it secondhand. There was no broadcast of any kind for this one. But on Monday, the 24th of October, SLU did win the only exhibition game of the men's preseason. And that was an 81-58 win over crosstown rival UMSL, which has 14 new players on the roster this year, just completely overhauled their roster. And Zach, what did you come away thinking in this one?
You know, oh man. Obviously Perkins didn't play, so you're seeing the same team from last year without, a couple players, uh, maybe a couple additions, younger players. I just really don't know what to take of this. I didn't like the start we got off to offensively, obviously. I thought our defense could have been better. I think what I've learned is that Parker needs to be on the floor. If Perkins, it's got to be, you've got to have two of the three of Perkins, Jimerson, Parker. I
Yeah.
think at all times. So that's really what I came away with. I thought Parker was as advertised, an absolute walking bucket. He shared the game's high scoring with Jimerson with 15 points apiece. Collins, 13.7 assists. Again, I shudder when I think about how this offense runs.
Mhm.
Collins can pass. We know he can pass. We know he can find players. We know he can play make. But again, running an offense is another thing entirely in my mind.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, he's gonna get his in the assist column. I wouldn't mind seeing them do a little bit more in transition, where I think he's really effective in a quicker way. I mean, the thing last year, the offense could kind of get bogged down in situations where he kind of over dribbled, over penetrated. I'm hoping that's something that in a season where he's trying to prove his game for the next level, he kind of removes some of the habits that he has that I think he can that would make him more effective. Certainly at the next level, and not to mention this season. So I'm certainly hoping for that. I was a little concerned by a few things, Zach. I mean, I think seeing us up 47-24 at halftime, that wound up being the final margin because they 34-34 in the second half. Not great. The turnovers, SLU had 14 and only forced 9 out of UMSL. That's something that I didn't love. Slash line was fine, 52% from the field, 41 from three, 67 from free throw. We're going to win most nights in the A10 if we're doing that, hopefully. So I didn't mind that. But we always have to check with you, Zach. What was the vibe there like? What'd you think of the game day vibes?
Oh man, I mean, it felt it, like I'm trying not to worry here because
Mhm.
and you've seen so much of it on Twitter with all the talking heads out there that are, remember the exhibitions, they're closed door scrimmages, they're just for learning. But I mean, it really wasn't. I mean, it was very tense in those first few possessions when the Billikens just weren't putting it in the bucket, and I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I can take away from this other than the surprise to me was Larry Hughes Jr. I
Yeah.
thought he played. I mean, I was surprised at how he was the first freshman off the bench. I thought for sure Kellen Thames would come in first. That wasn't the case. But it was a bit nostalgic to hear Larry Hughes. Maybe that's the first time Guy Phillips has made me smile in the history of his tenure as PA announcer at Billiken basketball games. It was nice to hear that.
Yeah, he had double digit minutes, which surprised me as well, especially given his walk on status. So the other freshmen, Thames, Kramer, and Cisse, were the only ones who had under 10 minutes in this game. Part of the minute distribution can be attributed to Perkins not being there, and we'll kind of see once he's back. And it sounds like he is going to play against Murray State. But we'll kind of see how those minutes shake out. I would expect him to not be at 100% when the season starts. I think they're going to ease him back in um, a little, as much as you can once game action starts. But it was certainly interesting to see Hughes get that much run in this game.
Yeah, a couple of things off the court related. There were some updates to the arena, some new features, I guess. Nothing major, but they added lockers outside of the gates. So in the vestibule there, the main gate, I guess when you come into the arena, they added lockers. So I guess if anybody forgets the clear bag policy
Yeah.
or whatever, that's available to them. So I thought that was nice. And
I think
then
that's a nice feature. That's kind of an underrated feature. I think that's pretty cocool. I wish there were more public spaces like that had lockers personally.
yeah, obviously Biondi was in the house looking like a longshoreman. I don't know. There was yeah, the students actually showed up pretty nicely though for an exhibition game, especially. It was probably that main section was probably half full, which I thought was nice. I don't know what the incentive was, if any, to get them
Yeah,
out,
I
but
think that's fine for an
oh
exhibition.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I just want to get this season going. I want to see this team at full strength, at full capacity, playing their best basketball, and it's going to be a long week.
It is. Yeah, that's a big gap between your your only exhibition game and then your first regular season game. But luckily, Zach, we did have at least one more test for these guys, and that's that closed door scrimmage they had this weekend against Bradley.
Yeah, allegedly anyway.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah,
Hush, hush.
yeah. Yeah, we got reports that Perkins didn't play in this one.
Mhm.
You know, the score, or not the score, but the result came out. The Billikens won in overtime, which is funny to me because thinking back to Majerus, how he would set up situations that like that this whole idea that we won in overtime could be that like we were up by 20 at the end and they just decided to play a 5 minute overtime period.
Right.
Like everything's made up and the rules don't matter. Like
Yeah.
it would be funny if we were up by 20 at the end of the fourth or the end of the second half and then they're like, oh, we'll just play in overtime just to get situational experience. So again, you can't really take anything from it because literally that could be what happened. Not saying it was or that I have any information. I'm just saying the way they talk about these things, they don't ever give proper context.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know like how experimental each coach was in the closed door scrimmage. They might have been running certain players more than they will in the regular season, trying out some new sets. You never really know. So there is a lot of context missing. I think one piece of information that probably is helpful is it sounds like that one of Bradley's better players was out. I think his name is Rink Mast, if I have that right. He's Dutch. Bradley's actually supposed to be one of the better teams in the Valley this year. I know they had a few rough seasons recently, but they are at least going to be pretty competitive in that league by the looks of it. So they're a good team. You still don't want to have to necessarily if you're thinking, all things being equal, you don't want to go to overtime with them. You want to beat them soundly, but um, I'm glad they got the test in nonetheless, and hopefully things are a lot sharper when we do start on the 7th against Murray State.
Yeah, I mean, not only sharper, but I hope we're at full strength because right now we're dealing with a lot of, as they'd say in soccer, knocks, a few little things that are bothering different players. Uh, all but Daniel Rivera seem to be not super serious.
Yeah.
Obviously, Daniel Rivera is out for the season after foot surgery. And Pete, did anybody mention how that happened?
I'm not quite sure. Although there were some people who thought that maybe this was a known issue when he came into SLU, and I don't buy that theory. I don't think they would have taken him. I know he was one of these scholarships very late in the cycle that we found out about him, that he came on campus and everything like that. I mean, he was an August player. But I don't for one second think that we knew that there was an existing injury. I think I think it was an injury and not like a long-term condition that they knew about. They would not have just burned a scholarship on somebody with a chronic foot problem, which doesn't seem to be the case here. I think it is an injury, but he is going to be out for the year. And, so that's my thought on it. I don't think it was a pre-existing issue.
Yeah, Javante Perkins has missed about 2 weeks after rolling his ankle. Didn't play against UMSL. Uh, are we like freaking out now, or what are we doing here, Pete? Help me out.
No, I mean, I also pointed out in the notes here, for full transparency, Okoro and Thatch both missed time before the UMSL game, sitting out of practices. Okoro, I think, for 3 or 4 days at a time, before UMSL. Look, everybody's back. I think the report is that everybody's going to be, no, there are no scratches heading into the Murray State game, to use it kind of in hockey terminology. But I think I was getting a little nervous heading into the UMSL game, hoping that the injury bug wasn't really going to be a pest this season. Obviously, losing Rivera, we're not losing a player who was seen to be a rotation player, but certainly that's a guy at 6'7" who can give you some depth and probably some minutes in the A10, play a couple positions, 3 or 4. And we don't have that option coming off the bench now. But everybody else in the rotation, they're healthy enough to start the season. It's just one of these kind of things where, yeah, maybe I'm just a battered down SLU fan looking for reasons to be nervous.
Yeah, I'm generally in the positive camp when it comes to this kind of stuff, but I don't know. Like maybe last season has done me in on the positivity. Uh, I don't know. I'm obviously the word out there is Perkins is practicing again at least,
Mhm.
and he'll have a week to kind of get up to speed, and obviously he probably won't be 100% going into Murray State, like I think you said. And as you mentioned, the regular season begins a week from today, Monday the 7th against Murray State. We'll preview that game on our next show because it'll fit right in there, given that we release on Mondays. And maybe if I can get it out late Sunday evening, I might try to do that. But there has been an uptick in coverage, especially on STL Today and Stu Durando. And it sounds like there's a bit of a change in philosophy over at the Post-Dispatch on how to handle, you know, online writing. And basically kind of like that blogger, like as many blogs as you can knock out, knock them out.
Yeah, and that's good news for a program like us. We are not necessarily going to be getting the amount of coverage that some of the other teams around the St. Louis area are getting. So the fact that we think there's going to be an uptick in volume, or we're pretty sure there's going to be an uptick in volume, is good news. And surely it sure seems to be that way, given some of the media coverage that we've seen for soccer this season, especially women's soccer, something that doesn't always command a lot of headlines in the sports page. So that's good news. That's cool to see, and we're going to see. The good thing about that is you're not just getting previews and recaps, but you're getting some more player profiles. I think that's been really good coming into this season. I think everybody's kind of who reads STL Today sports regularly has by now at least seen one feature on just about every player, which is great. And I'd love to see more of that. And Zach, we had one this past week about Terrence Hargrove that I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It kind of took us into the mindset of Terrence, and I know a lot of us wouldn't have been surprised to see him transfer out at some point in his career here, as his kind of usage rate never really got up, never trended upward above maybe a certain point. Uh, what did you find most interesting about this article, and maybe kind of give people an idea if they haven't read it yet?
Yeah, so it was really just kind of I think it was kind of framed around the fact that he's kind of a night owl, and that he just kind of keeps a different schedule than a lot of people. And it was kind of funny hearing his dad in there kind of pointing out some of his bad habits. He said he's a little bit of he's got a junk food weakness, and he's like he's not always productive when he's staying up late. Sometimes he's just playing video games. And I thought that was interesting because I've kind of become a little bit of a night owl since having kids, because it's really the only time that I have any peace and quiet relaxing time around here. So I can definitely relate to that. But it was good to see again, see a player sort of recognizing some of his potential pratfalls and trying to become more productive. I mean, he's a night owl, but at the same time, they talk about just how much work he's putting in, how many late hours he's putting in when maybe not everybody else is in the gym.
Yeah, it's funny because when you stay up late, you realize that you get, like you mentioned, the junk food at night, and like when you stay up late, you realize how hungry you get in the middle of the night, and why you should be sleeping at that time. But I kind of shudder when I think about him being out, him like training till like 2 a.m. I'm like, buddy, let your body like chill, like
Mhm.
just because these guys are going hard at practice every day. They're lifting every other day. They're putting their bodies through so much that, come on, man, they just recover a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I love the work ethic. I hope in the scrimmage. I mentioned to you in text message that we saw Terrence Hargrove drive and finish in traffic, which is something that I don't think I ever saw him do since he's
Yeah.
got here.
A lot of his drives have been in transition, and a lot of his other points have come off of 3-pointers. It's kind of that's kind of where he's getting most of his buckets. And so yeah, to see him be more assertive in traffic is certainly something you'd like to see him doing this season.
Um, Another front court or another back court, I guess, article or news that came out was Collins being on the Cousy Award watch list. Pete, run us
Yeah.
down what the Cousy Award is and why it's good for him to be on this list.
Yeah, the Bob Cousy Award is awarded every season to the best point guard in college basketball. Named after a legendary point guard, and they put out a watch list. I believe there's 20 names on it, and Collins was not one of those names last season. And he went on to lead the nation in assists. So it's good that they were not willing to make that oversight 2 years in a row, given his productivity at the point guard position. So it's definitely an honor. It's really cool to see your name on something like that. And I know Yuri calls himself unknown, but there aren't many opponents who aren't going to be aware of who he is and what he does this season.
Yeah, I really hope that he can find that balance between making the flashy Pete Maravich passes, and then just the very fundamentally sound running of the offense. Again, that's been a worry of mine, probably the last 6 months. I don't know why I just kind of started keying in on it. It bothers me that he'll make these great passes, but the offense remains stagnant. And again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that on him? Is that on the other players? Is that on Ford for not coaching the players correctly or installing? I just don't know.
Mhm.
But one thing I do know, Pete, is how to watch the Billikens when they're on the road. And I think there's some confusion. There always is confusion among a lot of fans that are kind of used to the old school. Hey, we just need the cable provider, no big deal, right?
Right.
But I think the best play for any college sports fan, besides maybe a Big East fan now who's with Flow Sports, is to get that ESPN Plus subscription plus a cable package that allows you to get Bally Sports Midwest. Because if you get Bally Sports Midwest and you have an ESPN Plus subscription, you will not miss a single game, a single non-national TV game. All games, all games that aren't national TV on the road will be live and replay on ESPN Plus. You'll get replays of every game. The only problem is ESPN Plus does not come with the ESPN TV channels. So that means you won't get Memphis, the Hall of Fame tip-off, Auburn, Davidson, VCU, Dayton. Those are the games that will be on the ESPN channels. And then there's other there's a couple, I think there's maybe 3 that are on CBS or USA. and that would go with your cable package. So if you're in St. Louis, cable package plus ESPN Plus, you should be squared away just as long as you get CBS Sportsnet. Out of market, if you're not in St. Louis, just get ESPN Plus. You're going to get every game, every Billiken game, non-national TV. So, of course, you'll want to have a cable package for the CBS produced games, the NBC produced games. That you'll need a cable package for. Bally Sports came out with an in-market standalone streaming service for $19.99. Are they insane, Pete?
That seems pretty high. I mean, one thing just
the
to
app
clarify,
half the time.
Yeah, I mean, just to clarify, if they are on Bally locally, are they blacked out on ESPN Plus?
For in-market.
For in-market, okay. So for me, being out of market, it doesn't apply. I can, I'm going to have everything on ESPN Plus.
That isn't everything non-national,
right? That isn't on the networks or right. Picked up by another network. Okay,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, but that, I mean, that does seem high. $19.99 a month.
What are they like? What is it? I mean, what do you get? Like,
I think at that point you got to be looking at what are the options that are going to capture everything, right? Like I have a few friends who swear by YouTube TV.
I think that one doesn't have Bally though. I don't think any.
Yeah, I mean, look again. You at that point you've got to sit down and kind of weigh your options. I mean, we're getting to the point where if you've got all of the top streaming services, you're paying as much as you would have for cable.
We've reached dystopian.
Yeah,
level.
Right.
Yeah,
so another $19.99 is kind of crazy. I mean, just like at that point, another $240 a year, just get cable. Like
we've reached the point of reckoning on this television broadcasting renaissance,
right.
Where we went from a place where if you wanted to cut the cable, that's great. You have all these other options. They're going to be cheaper. And these streaming options have realized, hey, let's just do what cable did for all those years. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy. I mean, I'll die on the hill that cable's where it's at till I die. Like, I just have no reason to not get rid of it. There's too much sports on at all times. It allows me to use all the streaming platforms to watch, like the NBC Sports streaming platform, Fox Sports streaming platform. So I'm still a big proponent of cable, and I think DirecTV Stream, again, no free ads, but that's, I think, the way to go. You can split it with people not in your household. So if you have a cousin or a friend that you trust, you guys can share the package. It'd be like $30, I think, per person. And you get 2 streams. So and then you can use the apps too, which aren't monitored by the streaming guidelines. So
right.
But yeah, just ESPN Plus and a cable package. That's all you really need to know. Couple of offers out for 2024, Pete.
Yeah, a couple new ones since we last talked. Billy Richmond III is the first one from Camden High School and New Jersey Scholars AAU. That high school because recently we got a commitment from his teammate Sion Medley. He actually just transferred up there from Memphis East High School. His dad played at Vanderbilt and then Memphis. So the name Billy Richmond Jr. the second might be familiar to SLU fans with a long memory. But he actually now owns the Wing Guru restaurant chain, headquartered out of Memphis. So Billy the Third is kind of this long, lean, skilled left-handed guard. He can kind of play a few positions, create mismatches. Probably more of a wing guard at this point. He's got good instincts, got a good quick release, nice shooter. A really intriguing player. At this point, he only has 5 offers, and the other 4 are from Seton Hall, Louisville, Memphis, and Mississippi State, which is really unusual to see somebody with that number of offers, and they're all to power conference schools. Just pretty surprising. and makes you wonder about like the kind of the timing and whether they're all open and committable, especially given that he's just about to start his junior season. So we'll kind of see how that develops. Going to be keeping a close eye on him. And then the other one, Brooks Barr out of Keller High School, Texas Impact AAU. He's a nice looking combo guard, smart, tough kid, got tight handles, really elite passing ability though. He's a lights out shooter, big time playmaker. He kind of really a full package kind of guard. Forte was down to see him in September, and since then he's gone from 1 to 7 offers. His other offers besides SLU are Loyola, Chicago, Colorado State, Fairfield, Yale, Columbia, and Bryant. So similar number of offers to Richmond, but not the same level. And SLU is definitely one of the stronger ones in there. So both look like pretty promising offers, and it looks like it looks like we're being pretty active in the class of 2024.
By the way, the Wing Guru logo is giving me major Smoothie King vibes. Go ahead and look for it yourself and tell me that's not just totally like it's not taking inspiration from Smoothie King. I don't know.
I like it. It looks to me, it looks like the kind of like roadside sign from like Breaking Bad or one of those. Like it would be this like iconic chain from a market you're not all that familiar with or something like that. It's red and yellow, those colors that pop the most in food signs. I don't know. I kind of like it.
No, I like it. I just think it does kind of have it does have El Pollo.
Yeah, I think that's
Hermanos.
kind of what it's given me.
Yeah.
Those colors.
No, I could see that. The Billikens made the final 7 for a JUCO product. Pete?
Yeah. Yeah, Dante Horn is a 6'4" guard out of Howard College, which is a JUCO in Texas. He's originally from Memphis, another Memphis kid. Played his freshman year at Eastern Oklahoma State. So by the time he goes to a D1 school, he'd be a junior with 2 years of eligibility left. He looks like a nice player. He can score on 3 levels. He's got deep range, good defender. I'm a little skeptical that we'll see a commitment here, given that SLU doesn't appear to have offered yet. And we're probably going to see SLU be pretty choosy when it comes to this last scholarship that they have on paper if they're going to use it in the fall. I think they're more likely to use it on kind of a borderline 3-star, 4-star big man if they're going to use it in the fall. But, we'll keep an eye on this nonetheless. His other finalists are Drake, St. John's, North Texas, Texas State, Towson, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Drake and St. John's also have not offered. I think SLU and those two are probably schools that have shown some interest, and he might be kind of saying, hey, I've got a lot of interest in you too. But if not, the other 4 are the schools that are, that he's actually visited. Actually, I don't know if he's visited Towson, but all the Texas ones he has. But again, we're in his final 7, kind of came out of nowhere, but we're going to keep an eye on it for you.
Jordan Goodwin, our wonderful baby boy Jordan Goodwin, is a legit NBA player this season.
He really is. I mean, how exciting is this to see happen? He didn't play in the Wizards' first 3 games, got the DNP coach's decision next to his name. But Zach, he did play. He did get in against the Detroit Pistons and scored his first NBA points.
And as you mentioned, Pete, a quintessential Jordan Goodwin stat line in this one.
Yeah. 2 minutes, 3 rebounds, 2 points. And I think of those 3 rebounds, was it 1 or 2 offensive rebounds? But regardless, his basket came on an offensive rebound. It was a little bit of a typical Goodwin play,
And was he boxed out his man beautifully to get this rebound. I thought it was textbook.
It was everything you want from Goodwin. Somebody hits the deck, he gets an offensive rebound, he puts it back. It's nothing flashy or fancy. It's just like the kind of mop up work that he loves to do. Just
fit
opportunistic.
In with those Pistons.
Yes, very much in line with their character. But then Zach, he played a lot more with against the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, this was a huge opportunity for Goodwin, and this came off the heels of an unfortunate injury for the Wizards, probably.
Yeah, they lost one of their guards for what looks like to be 6 to 8 weeks. And we kind of thought maybe that would mean that he'd play in that Pacers game a couple days ago, but he didn't get in. Another DNP CD in that one. But against Boston, he got 18 minutes, had 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover, and 1 foul. He went 3 for 4 from the field, and his only miss was a 3-point attempt. And then, he wound up being +8 in a game that the Wizards lost by 18. So that stat there kind of stands out to me, but I know there's a lot of other factors that go into that one. Hopefully, unfortunately, it's because of an injury, but hopefully that means a lot more opportunity for him.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where he goes from here. I hope it continues to trend upward, obviously. And again, I think he was, second on the team in plus minus in this one. I think there was one player that was might have been better than him. And he also had the third most bench minutes in this one.
Yeah.
So I think there was a 22 and another 18. But another pro Billiken update. This one kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really did. It hit social media heavily, at least in our feed, all of a sudden, and it wasn't something that was on my radar. But Hassan French, drafted by Raptors 905, the G League affiliate of the Toronto Raptors. He was fourth pick of the second round, and I don't know, that's pretty cool, Zach.
Yeah, it's great to see, and I think he'll excel there in the G League, and hopefully show that he's more than just a four that can't shoot free throws or shoot from anywhere outside 7 feet.
Yeah,
I'll be interested to see how he plays and hopefully tune into a couple games.
yeah, they just released their training camp roster, and he's on there. For guys like us, college basketball fans, there's plenty of recognizable names on there. You remember, like, oh my God, there are a lot of really good players who are not in the NBA. There's just so many good basketball players out there. Um, but it's pretty cool to see their season starts next month. It starts November 5th. They play, appropriately enough, Capital City Go-Go, and it's almost kind of a bummer Goodwin isn't there, because we could see Goodwin and French play against each other. But yeah, that's Saturday the 5th, 7 p.m. Eastern, in Washington, D.C. If you're interested in tracking what Hassan French does this season.
We had media day for the women's basketball team, virtual event, unfortunately, on Tuesday, October 18th. I can't really get mad at this preseason poll. It is funny to see how the turntables, so to speak, when it comes to women's basketball versus men's basketball, as far as the A10 standings go, because this is almost completely flipped on its head from the men's side.
It really has. And I found that to be so interesting, because it feels at times like the men's side is so entrenched as to, like, who's a top half team, who's a bottom half team, or at least who's like a bottom third team. Those never seem to change. And on the women's side, now you've got UMass as the unanimous number 1 pick to win the league. And it's all jumbled up from there. We're used to UMass being pretty good. We're used to Rhode Island being pretty good. Fordham and Dayton have really been the teams to beat in recent years, it feels like. And here we have, LaSalle's 2, Rhode Island's 3, Fordham's number 4, and then Dayton's way down at number 10. So that was surprising to see. You're right, though. It's almost like if you showed me this list, I would have thought that it was just like a random number generator that ordered these teams. If you had showed this to me a couple of years ago.
Yeah, SLU coming in 12th, sandwiched in between George Washington and Loyola Chicago. A couple of preseason all-conference honors to talk about here, Pete.
Yeah, Brooke Flowers was named to the all-conference second team and all-defensive team. Kyla McMakin, who is a Longwood transfer who scored 18 points a game last year there, made the third team. So to me, not many surprises on the all-conference teams. These teams overall seem to be rewarding returning experience. Of the 18 players on the 3 teams, 6 are grad students, 6 are seniors, 4 are juniors, and 2 sophomores. So it seems like coaches are really comfortable voting for who they know, and not a lot of surprising newcomers, really. Although I in terms of the league finish, I think SLU's probably going to be better than number 12. My hope for them was to be a top half team this year. we'll see. They have such a hard non-conference schedule that's either going to beat them into the ground or it's going to, sharpen them for what would be an easier conference schedule, honestly.
Yeah, they had a 15-minute interview with Coach Tillett, Brooke Flowers, and Kyla McMakin. What in here was new to us? What was kind of not so new? What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you've been following this team, this program in the offseason as you and I have, there's really not a whole lot that was new. This is such a short amount of time to talk to three people. But it's clear that Flowers and McMakin are the leaders, and it's smart for Coach Tillett. I mean, I think these are probably the two best players, but also this is one player that is a veteran who's been at SLU for a long time, and it's a veteran who she brought in, who's going to be the main source of scoring punch this season. So it's smart for her to kind of have both those sides represented, because we do have a returning core, but we do have a lot of players who are coming in, both freshmen and transfers, who are expected to play quite a bit. And I think it's smart for her to have both of those represented in among these two captains. Personally, McMakin said they can really score, but that defense is going to be kind of a challenge, which is interesting. And then Flowers said it's kind of up to her to lead this team defensively. People might remember she's the returning defensive player of the year in conference. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if you took much from these, Zach, but I did think Tillett's quote about buy-in was good. She said it's only the first step and not the last, that buy-in is the price of admission, and that everything they do after that is to immerse themselves in the culture with what they want to accomplish and how they do it. I agree with her, and I hope that's getting through to the players. I mean,
It's like a healthy cult leader.
It really is. Yeah, it really, well, I guess they all start that way. But yeah, to get that buy-in. But no, I mean, I think they all said, the right things. There wasn't a whole lot to take from it. But I thought all in all, it was it was a good representation for SLU. And I think we're better than number 12. I think there's just a lot of unknown to the rest of the conference.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of these the rest on their laurels as far as picking teams and where they think they're going to fall.
Yeah.
It should be interesting. I was also interested in that they said defense is going to be a challenge. I don't know. I think maybe she, it's possible she could mean that in that, you're bringing in a bunch of players that played down in a smaller conference last year, and perhaps it's going to be the adjustment of defending A10 teams. So that's certainly possible as far as an explanation for that quote.
Yeah.
They have an exhibition game Thursday, November 3rd versus Maryville at Chaffetz. It will be their only preseason tune-up before they head to Indiana State on Monday the 7th. Pete, a lot of good news from the soccer side of things. But first, let's talk about Two Men in the Garden.
Yeah, we talk salsa, we talk pickles all the time. And in this little segment, you say Harissa, I say Harissa. I've noticed that in our ad reads before. I actually looked it up because I wanted to know. And it sounds like your pronunciation is the more correct one. Dictionary.com gives both of them as accepted pronunciation. So I don't think either of us are wrong, but it seems like yours is the one that is probably preferred. So I'm going to try and shift to Harissa. And I want to talk about it because I finally made some, kind of Mediterranean food that it went really well with last week. And I got to say, like the Harissa sauce that I've been buying locally in the store is good, but this one has so much more of a kick to it. It has more of like an orangish hue. The other one's a bit of darker red that I was using before. And this one has just the right amount of spice. So if you like a Harissa sauce, if you're like me, you like Mediterranean food, I paired it with chicken shawarma in this case, that I made. It's a recipe I make all the time. And man, it really hit the spot. I've now gone through quite a bit of this little jar already. Can't recommend it enough. Unfortunately, they don't have it on their website yet. Hopefully they do soon. I know there's a few products that they make and are in stores that aren't on the website yet. And I had been holding out for a few things before I made an order, couldn't wait any longer. And 2 nights ago, I did make another order to come to Cincinnati. I don't think I had ever tried their hot mango, and I don't think I had tried, they have a sugar-free salsa, and I'm going to report back next time on both of those, because those are going to be new ones to me, at least if I get the package quickly enough. So yeah, 2 Minute Garden. You can find the Harissa sauce locally. I personally bought it at Straub's in Webster Groves. And you can buy just about everything else they do at 2minuteagarden.com.
I'll prep for my next career as Scripps Howard spelling bee pronouncer.
Yeah.
On the women's soccer side of things, as I mentioned, number 10 in the United Soccer Coaches Poll. They were number 11 last week. Number 5 in College Soccer News, again up a spot from last week. And then number 10 by Top Drawer, down a spot from 9 the previous week. We mentioned pieces on STL Today about the basketball team. There were 2 really nice pieces on women's soccer. Pete, run us down what people missed if they may not have read them.
Yeah, I'll do that right after I mention that they were number 9 in the RPI as of a week ago. They post the RPI really late on Sunday night, so we don't have an update for that yet, but I would imagine it to be pretty similar. You're right. 2 excellent pieces. Both appeared in the Post-Dispatch. They actually appeared on the page, the physical paper page, front of the sports page on the same day. Obviously also on the website, which is how I got to them. The first one was by Benjamin Hochman, who doesn't always write about women's soccer. He writes about a little bit of everything, but being a St. Louis Post-Dispatch sports writer, it's going to be mostly Cardinal stuff. But this was about Hannah Friedrich, and it got into how she was kind of raised by her grandparents. And they were really able to support her desire to play soccer. Apparently they're at every game, not only leading some cheers for shots, but also leading the pregame tailgate ritual of Fireball cinnamon whiskey shots, which, Zach, I thought was a pretty entertaining detail in this story.
Yeah, it's definitely. Oh gosh, I'm getting like my mouth.
You're not a Fireball guy, huh?
I like fire. That's the one shot I'll do. I don't do any other shots, but it still doesn't make it good. But no, I thought it was. I really like the the backstory here, and that you a lot of St. Louis soccer, I think, comes with that air of rich white suburban, like it's just very very well to do sport in a lot of ways, and people who grew
Sure.
up in less than people who play soccer kind of like it seems like they come from they don't see a lot of adversity, I guess, growing up, and so it's nice to hear a story about someone who did fight through adversity and did have to make a lot more sacrifices than you tend to hear about in the soccer community.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, if you want to, weave that narrative into her game, I mean, she's just a really tough player who doesn't back down from anything. I mean, this had some pretty good stats too. 6 of her school record 15 game-winning goals have come in the 84th minute or later. I mean, that's the definition of clutch right there.
She's got the gene.
She has it, and she's the only active player in D1 with 30 goals and 40 assists. Just an incredible body of work that she's put together. She's going to be all over. She's already all over the record book for SLU. Really, really an amazing career she's put together. And then, Zach, the other article that was published that same day was really all about SLU's offense and all they had been able to do. And this one was written by Stu Durando. I thought he had some good stuff in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, SLU's offense is just off the charts good right now, and you can say what you want about the A10, but again, soccer is one of those sports where bad teams can pack it in, and you can struggle to score no matter how good you are. And SLU, I think, they start out that game trying to play the beautiful soccer that they are capable of, the skill, the speed, and then when if things aren't going well or they're not able to find the back of the net, just grind it in. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of their game, is just being able to figure out when to flip that switch to maybe just try to out athlete another team.
Yeah, that's right. And like being an article about all about SLU's offense, there were lots of details, lots of stats about our potent scoring this season. How we've got a number of options, how we're leading the country in a number of categories. He even had another article on the 27th about 4 veteran players who have kind of accepted roles coming off the bench this season: Carson Cole, Anna Walsh, Sydney Beach, Jess Preußer. And it's just there's so much to like here. I mean, people
Then you
who are
throw in Emily Gaby.
oh, I know.
I mean,
You forget she
imagine
comes off the
guarding,
bench.
imagine defending against one of SLU's high-powered forwards for, 25 minutes in the first half, and then Gaby's right behind you.
There's no relief.
It's
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's waves of attacking for the Billikens, and it's showing in the results.
it really is. Yeah. And speaking of those results, the first one came against VCU on Thursday, the 20th, Zach. This one was, this was not a result that looked like a sure thing all along.
No, it wasn't. It was Hannah Friedrich's 100th game, 99th start. Lindsay Heckel out with an injury, still unknown, I think, on that one. A scoreless.
No, she's back. She was back.
No, unknown reason why.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, scoreless first half, but SLU outshot them 10-4 and had 6 corners. More dominant than those numbers suggest. VCU really tried to play it out of the back, and SLU kept up the pressure. And I question that tactic, because it was clear from, the first few possessions that VC had out of the back that SLU was going to be on top of whoever had the ball.
It reminded me of watching the U.S. men's national team against Japan a few weeks ago in one of their last friendlies, one of their last tune-ups before the World Cup. Greg Berhalter likes to play it out of the back, and they just turned it over in that last third time and time again. And SLU's pressure was forcing VCU to do the same thing here. I was pretty surprised that they didn't have anything to show for it at the end of the first half, that it was still scoreless. It really had some chances there, had some opportunities, but everything was just kind of getting broken up at the last minute. Kind of a frustrating game. And then in the 66th minute, Caroline Kelly had one, assisted by Sydney Beach. Zach, this was a pretty controversial play, though. I mean, it's one of those that I know there's been a lot of disagreement over whether
there was a lot,
and how this should have been called.
How that's possible.
Well, why don't you give us? You were there, so why don't you give us your take on this goal?
So actually, I'm probably, because I was there, I'm probably the least apt to give a great description of it. It's just like Chapley says, I'm really bad at
details.
Yeah, details when I'm at the game. But yeah, no, this ball was kind of flighted in. Really high angle. VCU's keeper came out. Seemed like she may have been either tentative or misjudged the flight of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look, the contact was made between the goalkeeper and Caroline Kelly. I could say that the goalkeeper initiated the contact, and I could say that the VCU defender pushed Caroline Kelly into the goalie. Either way, I see no issue here. Could the ref have blown this one dead? Absolutely. Should he have? I don't think so. I think it was kind of the goalkeeper's fault for either misjudging it or coming out and not being assertive enough to just kind of run Caroline over, for lack of a better word. Just come out and you're not going to get called for a penalty if you go up and you get the ball and you run into and knock Caroline Kelly out. You're just not. So I really don't see an issue here. Obviously, the ref could have, and that's what's kind of scary.
Yeah, so this one's funny for a few reasons. Number one is because I think 1 minute before this happened, I text you and I had been texting a little
Yes.
bit, and I texted you. I said their keeper is really good. She hasn't misplayed anything all day. As soon as they score, you text me back. But I whether she misplayed this one or not, I think is a little arguable. I think you're right. She probably could have made a better decision with it. And so much of the time, if there's any contact like that and a goalie falls, it's
Yeah.
going to be goalie interference. So, when VCU fans, players, coaches, everybody's furious, I understand. I mean, they probably saw it live and it kind of felt like that. On the replays, it kind of depended on the angle. The one from the main broadcast angle, Kelly is her head is turned away from the keeper, her one shoulder's facing the keeper. Um, but the goalie comes up and kind of lands on her a little bit. I mean, I think you could make the argument that Kelly was just kind of standing there and bracing herself. VCU was probably trying to say they gave her a little bit of she gave her a little bit of a shoulder. But regardless, she was the first one after the ball bounced and she put it away. I'm sure as soon as she did, the ref's like, wish you missed that one, but oh well, there was nobody in front of her. It went in, and that's all SLU needed.
Yeah, it's the Billikens do what they do best. They win soccer games.
They create a lot of opportunities, and
Yes.
sometimes things get called your way, and sometimes they don't.
And I think some of that has to do with how good they are in the air. The
Mm,
goalkeeper is trying, it's the decision making. Like this team's really good in the air. Do I leave my defenders or to do the job, or do I take matters into my own hands? And perhaps, knowing how good we are in the air, the goalkeeper decides to come out when she shouldn't.
yeah,
And so, I mean, just the air of danger, I think, is enough to make that play what it was.
yeah, I think so. There was kind of a weird moment or a scary moment, I guess, in the 82nd minute. Emily Charon from VCU fouled Hannah Sawyer from behind. Not a super dirty play, but awkward. She went down for a couple minutes, and I was nervous, but she's okay. She had to be helped off the field, but I was nervous. And then VCU did have a kind of a good chance in the 85th minute, bit of a scrum in front of the net, but Puricelli played it well. And in those last few minutes, I think SLU has really become good at wasting time to close out a close game. Nothing egregious, nothing like rolling around on the field pretending to be injured or anything like that. Just sound, smart play, working it up the sides into the corners, wasting time, and they wrapped up the win. So that was, I think, all pretty good stuff from SLU there to close it out.
Yeah, a lot of credit has to go to the back line in this one. Heckel was out, so Stram, Beach, and Hauk all played 90 minutes. Halverson played 86.
Yeah.
This was a solid performance from the back line. Shields had a nice quote, Pete.
She said the game developed like we thought it would. They're dynamic, they're organized, and they hadn't conceded a goal in the run of play in the A10. She was really pleased with the first 30, 35 minutes. She said, we just didn't punch anything through. Good lesson for us. Then she spoke really highly of Beach filling in for Heckel and shutting down their best goal scorer. And then she said St. Joe's is often a late season spoiler that has challenged SLU in the past. But spoiler alert, they did not this time, Zach. We'll get into that in a minute. The shots here were 13-7 in favor of SLU. Shots on goal were 4-3. Corners, SLU had 9 to VCU 0, and fouls, SLU had 9 to VCU 6. I was kind of scared of VCU coming into this one, Zach. I mean, they had a lot of ties. They, like she said, they hadn't conceded a lot of goals. It was clear that this was going to be one of the toughest teams that we were going to play. And then luckily, St. Joe's on Sunday the 23rd to end the regular season was not one of the toughest teams we saw.
It was not. It was a 4-0 win versus St. Joe's. The senior day, Carson Cole, Sydney Beach, Jess Pracer, Jamie. Oh goodness gracious me!
She's got a tough one.
Can't do it.
Deba
I'm
or
resigning.
Dinas?
I'm resigning my post as future spelling bee pronouncer.
It's Deber or Dinas, I think, and she doesn't play a whole lot. I think
No.
she yeah. So it was one of those that yeah. I don't know if that's Greek or something. It's a tough one though.
Bree Arthur, Anna Walsh, Hannah Friedrich, and Bree Halverson. Bree Halverson, who's been here for 10 years now. Um,
She's the Fred Thatch of the women's soccer team.
Does this mean that Anna Lawler, Abby Miller, and Emily Groark are all coming back?
Yeah, so I think 2 of those 3 are listed as seniors. I believe all 3 of them will have graduated by the spring, and I assume this means they're going to be using their COVID bonus season. Yeah, Miller's a senior, and Lawler and Groark are both redshirt seniors. That's right. So each played their freshman season elsewhere, later missed a season due to injury, and got a red shirt for that. And then they'll have, the COVID season on top of it. So it seems like all of them would qualify for one or more season if they wanted to use it. Just still haven't heard anything official on this one, but it seems like if they didn't walk for a senior day, that they're going to be back.
Third minute, the scoring was literally, if you tuned in late to this one, you missed a lot.
Yes.
Third minute, Lawler assisted by Caroline Kelly. Kelly settled a bouncing ball in deep, used a drop cut to her right to lose 2 defenders, made a quick pass with the outside of her right foot to Lawler, who was right in front of the net for the goal.
That set the tone for the whole day. But she got that ball, and it was like she was just running a drill, and those St. Joe's defenders were orange cones.
She just backed them down.
It was so impressive.
She backed them down like 20 feet. I was like, well, I think I texted you. I think that's the easiest goal we'll score all season.
It was incredible. I mean, like it was so like cold, like almost like she was like a Bond assassin. There was just no emotion, like no respect for those defenders. Just like, oh, we all know what this is, and man, it felt like that was the tone for the day right there.
Yeah, 5th minute, Kelly assisted by Friedrich. Nice speed from Kelly to get up the right side and finished calmly to the opposite side of the net. 22nd minute, Emily Gaby assisted by Miller. Gaby got it just outside the top of the box, took a couple small touches and let it rip. She hit it like she was mad at it.
Yeah, she sure did.
I mean, I can't believe the talent we have coming off this bench.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's
incredible. I mean, if you have someone who can strike a ball like that, who's not starting, it's just you feel borderline feel bad for the rest of the league.
60th minute, Emily Groark assisted by Friedrich. Friedrich was out by the right sideline, crossed into the box. 2 SLU players and 2 St. Joe's players. Might as well be 3 St. Louis players at that point. If it's 2-on-2, it's 3-on-2. It actually bounced and grazed high off Gaby, who directed it over to Groark. Gaby didn't get an assist. Not sure why.
If you see the replay, you can only kind of tell from what angle, but it hit like right under her neck almost. Just kind of skipped off of her. So yeah, hard to say if it was an intentional or not, but she didn't get the assist regardless.
Shots in this one, 24-8 Billikens. Shots on goal, 12-2. Corners, 11-2. Fouls were 12-10 St. Joe's. We've got the A10 tournament that has already started. Apologies to everyone for missing last week and not covering it ahead of time. But the Billikens, obviously, the 1 seed in this one.
Yeah, no question they were going to get that. It's only an 8-team tournament, so you don't wind up with most of the bottom half teams. So SLU ended up hosting 8-seed Loyola on Saturday the 29th, which didn't feel great about, Zach, because Loyola is one of the teams that gave SLU the best game. The Loyola of, I would say, 3 teams that SLU beat gave them the most trouble. Loyola's up in that grouping. And the fact that they're an 8 seed was surprising to both of us. The way that they had played in the Valley the last few years, the way that they looked against SLU, it kind of felt like there were some teams ahead of them that Loyola is better than. But regardless, that's who we wound up with.
Yeah, you look at their schedule, and I mean, this team can't score. They can defend with the best of them. A lot of 1-0 games. Loyola just cannot score. They can't put the ball in the net.
Yeah, and SLU struggled to score against them for 3 out of the 4 halves they've played against them this season, honestly.
Yeah, and Loyola again showed that they struggled to score. 3-0 win for the Billikens. The Billikens will move on to the semifinals. Scoreless at half. Neither team had a shot until the 23rd minute. SLU ended up out shooting Loyola 6-0 in the first half. 50th minute, Lindsay Heckel, assisted by Katie Hauk and Sophia Stram. 56th minute, Heckel, assisted by Stram.
All of those points coming from defenders, by the way, from the back line.
Jesus.
But they were really, it was just balls that they go into the box, a lot of traffic in the box, multiple players getting a foot on it, rebounds. I mean, it was just putting bodies in the box, and Heckel has such good instincts there, and was able to come away with 2 goals.
Yeah, I as much as I lament the idea of short corners in college soccer, just because of the lack of skill, I think, and lack of good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fault us for the way we run our corners because we score. Mm-hmm. We're just so much more skilled at times than other teams. It really doesn't matter. We can beat you with our athleticism. We can beat you with our skill.
Yeah, and speaking of skill, that was the story with this last goal by Hannah Sawyer. Once again, treating defenders like orange cones, weaving in and out and just doing it all herself.
That was that the one where she just ran downhill and just said, "Screw it, I'm gonna score"?
Yeah, that was that.
That reminded me of a little bit of Adnan Gabelich's goal. Oh gosh, had to be 7-8 years ago now. He took it from just inside their own half and just ran, like outran everybody. But
yeah, she's so fast.
Yeah, and skilled too. She did put on a couple moves there en route to goal. Shots were 20-1 Billikens, 8-0 on goal. It's so funny to me that like Puricelli, you can just she can not touch the ball with her hands at any point in a game and get defensive player of the week every week.
Yeah. Like she could have just left her gloves in her locker and like put Crisco all over her hands and been like, come on, let's see what you got.
The opposite of Stickum.
That's right.
Now I'm remembering the scene from Little Giants with where we introduced him to Stickum.
Yeah, here he goes with the deep sports 90s movie cut.
Corners were 11-1 Billikens, fouls 9-6 Loyola. 13th shutout of the season, matching a program record. By the way, we mentioned on Twitter, Puricelli 2 shutouts away from matching the A10 single season shutout record held by none other than who, Peter?
Yeah, a former UMass goalkeeper, Brianna Scurry. Legendary U.S. women's national team goalkeeper, has the record, 15 in a season, and 2 more games, 2 more shutouts, and she's going to be tied.
Yeah, and then hopefully maybe a nice NCAA tournament draw.
That's right.
To get number 16. Other first round results, Pete, run us down.
Number 4, Davidson 2. Number 5, Duquesne 0. Good news for SLU because Duquesne was another team that kind of gave us a tough time. I think we won 1-0 up there. Number 2, Dayton 2. Number 7, UMass 0. Number 6, St. Joe's 1. Number 3, VCU 0. I was stunned by that result. I couldn't believe that at all.
I feel like St. Joe's plays like above their capabilities a lot. Like they're either like really, really good or really, really bad. There is no in between with that team.
Yeah,
they either play below potential or way above potential.
I thought playing them back to back though was just like that result shocked me. And then I thought VCU, I mean, they were a top 50 RPI team, and I kind of wonder what their at-large chances would have been if they won a couple more games in this tournament. But regardless, the tournament reseeds after the quarterfinals, so SLU's going to have St. Joe's again after that upset, and then Davidson and Dayton are going to be on the other side.
What do you think about reseeding?
I don't.
Besides hairlines,
I don't love it because I don't know if it's my lifelong NCAA tournament love where there's just like a fixed bracket and it's just like you play who you play. It's a little confusing, as a fan. Like, why even draw up a bracket? Just list the seeds.
Yeah.
Because here I am thinking about, well, I looked at the whole field and I'm like, because you don't play everybody in your conference in a regular season, and SLU has not played Davidson. And so I was like, man, this Davidson Duquesne game is kind of intriguing because Duquesne, was one of the tougher teams SLU ran into in the regular season. And then Davidson, we haven't seen. So I fully expected to see them, and we're not going to unless they get through Dayton. And we beat St. Joe's again. So yeah, I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
I
certain.
kind of like a fixed bracket. Maybe it's just my simple brain. Are you a fan of it, or?
I hadn't really thought about it until just now, but in a lot of ways it makes sense for the quote unquote one bid leagues to
Mm,
do it this way. Protects the regular season champion a little bit more. So I can see why the A10 would do it, especially given the the gap in talent between, say, even I mean, there's not that great of a talent gap between SLU and Dayton, but there's a massive talent gap between, you know, Dayton every year and VCU most years, right?
right.
So I think there's a good reason they do it for one bid leagues. Now, NCAA tournament, not a single chance in the world I want to see it. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
I can't imagine Katie Shields and company are upset that they're reseeding and sending us St. Joe's.
No, I mean, and we just played St. Joe's. We just scouted St. Joe's. I mean, yes, they're more familiar with us, but you don't have to learn a new team necessarily on the fly. Not that Davidson's new, but it's just somebody you haven't seen this season.
Next up, as we mentioned, SLU will host St. Joe's in the semifinal on Wednesday the 2nd. The winning streak is now at 16, tops in the nation, Pete.
Yeah, so impressive. Overall record is it 18-1 or 19-1 now? I was
Oh
just about
boy.
to say 18-1, and now I'm questioning myself. It is 18-1. Okay, so they played 19 games. They've won 18. They haven't tied despite the new rule. So impressive. And not just that, but SLU's season goal record of 52 in 2018 has already been broken. And every new goal is just adding to the regular to the season record for this program. So they're currently at 59. I think they've conceded 9 goals all season, plus 50 if I'm doing my math right, Zach. It's just amazing what this team is doing to the record book at SLU.
Yeah, just run it through the shredder and rewrite the record book from scratch. No, I'm kidding. That would be mean to all the former players. By the way, guys, if I'm spaced out in this show, I am dealing with ridiculous headaches for the last 3 days. So I'm doing my best over here. I just want to get that out there because I'm sure somebody will be like, "Is he paying attention?" I'm like, "Yeah, trying to." Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. This team. I cannot wait for this semifinal. It'll be at 7 p.m. Central Time. Be at Herman Stadium. If you have an emergency and you can't be at Herman Stadium, you can watch it on your phone. ESPN Plus. And then 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday as well. It'll be Davidson versus Dayton at UD. And then the final will take place on Sunday, November 6th. It will hopefully be at SLU because that means SLU will have beaten St. Joe's and entered to the final. Pete, on the men's side, the RPI continues to look favorable for the Billikens as of at least 10:23.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm gonna just check really quickly to see if they've updated. They have not. It's still as of 10:23. So yeah, we're up to 20. We're up to 19 as of the 23rd. And then the last two opponents, Dayton 47, St. Joe's 103. So the RPI is in a really good spot for NCAA tournament purposes. And this week for men's soccer, the task was really closing out the regular season and locking up that number one seed in the A10.
Yeah, and they started off great. A 3-1 win at number 19 Dayton on the 22nd. Pete, this one was really fun.
It was end to end a fantastic performance. I really happy with how they played. I mean, Dayton was one of these teams. Like, look, we just said they're ranked number 19. Their RPIs of 47. You're not quite sure how good this team is. They're a good team. And then in the 39th minute, Alberto Suarez, assisted by Lane Warrington, really nice cross into the box to catch him perfectly in stride. And he just headed it down, bounced it right in front of the net and in, just textbook stuff. 46th minute, Suarez strikes again from Warrington and Max Floriani as well. Another header off an even better header. Warrington had the long throw in, and Floriani whipped his head, headed it backwards, putting just everything he had into it. Once again, Alberto Suarez was right there in front of the net and bounced it over to the far side. 53rd minute, Brogan Townsend, assisted by John Klein and CJ Coppola. So in the UD box, Coppola slid it back to Klein. Looked like it was going to be broken up by a Dayton defender, but it got through. Klein made a move to his right to lose a defender or two, and then he slipped it over to Townsend. And Townsend just let loose a brace off the bottom of the crossbar and in. I think Rammer called it a big boy goal or something like that. He really liked it. Just great to see. Dayton did get one back in the 77th minute. Usaino Cisse, assisted by Xavier Zenge.
That's why I let you
Tricky
take this
one. Yeah, thanks. It was just a clinical first half, Zach. I mean,
it was.
They passed and moved, just sliced up that Dayton defense.
It was one of the more polished performances I've seen from a SLU soccer team in these last 2 years. I mean, obviously last year was unreal, but I thought just the way they took on that Dayton pressure and then played through it, was just off the charts. This team is coming together.
Yes.
Chemistry wise, talent wise. I think they're peaking at the right place, and this is what kind of we talked about at the beginning of the season. It's not going to be about the non-conference. It's not going to be, obviously you've got a great RPI, but we're not super worried about those early season results because we're going to need the A10 tournament.
Yeah, we came into this season preseason ranked number 10, and I know you and I both kind of raised our eyebrows and thought, oh, okay, I don't know about number 10. Like we've got a lot of guys left. So clearly we were getting a lot of respect for the newcomers, getting a lot of respect for what we'd done last season. This is the team right here in this Dayton game that they gave a preseason number 10 ranking to. Unfortunately didn't get a lot of scoring opportunities in the first half out of it. But once we broke the lead open to 2-0 early in the second half and put it away, that was it. So Dayton outshot SLU actually 12-3 in the second half, but it was too late by then. And then this win and the Duquesne tie on the same day actually put SLU in first place, which was great to see because you want to be into the driver's seat heading into the end of the regular season.
Shots 16-12 Dayton. Shots on goal SLU 5, Dayton 4. Corners 8-3 Dayton. Fouls 14 for Dayton. SLU had 11. 3 yellow cards for the Billikens, 2 for the Flyers. I think in this one, it really shows how efficient the Billikens were. They didn't have a lot of chances, but with their chances, they made Dayton pay.
They did, and it's one of those games where it's almost surprising. Like, yeah, we knew Dayton got a lot of shots back late, but the stats just don't tell the story of this game at all. It was just a really sound, sharp game from SLU. And when you just look at a box score, it doesn't do it justice here. Not at all. And then SLU got a 1-0 win at St. Joe's on the 29th. Actually, sorry, it was against St. Joe's at home because it was senior night. John Klein, Lane Warrington, Carlos Tofern, Enzo Okoye, and Alex Sterenberger all were honored. And then one of the honorees, Klein himself, scored in the 74th minute, assisted by Mads Stistra Pedersen and Max Floriani. Zach, that goal was great. Speaking of sharp stuff, man, was that a laser.
What a really nice goal. Just a great pass.
It was a perfect pass.
It was kind of like holding the right bumper button in FIFA. It was just the laser cross on the ground. Great
I'm
pass
and I'm
from
telling you,
Pedersen.
since that Blackburn game, that weird Blackburn game, Pedersen has really come into his
Yeah,
own.
yeah, he
Um,
got that confidence going. That
yeah,
BDE.
it was kind of like he looked like he belonged out there, and now we've got this really unique weapon on the field, and
He's
he's looked
unbelievable
great.
on set pieces.
Hmm.
I think in this one he put one on net. I think he put if I recall correctly, he put a free kick on net, and
Yeah,
was with a great save from the St. Joe's keeper.
yeah.
The shots in this one: 17 for the Billikens, 12 for St. Joe's. Billikens 5, St. Joe's 4 shots on goal. 6-3 on corners for the Billikens. 16-10, the Hawks led in fouls. 2 yellow cards for St. Joe's, 1 for the Billikens. That was Warrington. The Billikens claim back-to-back A10 regular season soccer championship.
Yeah, this one never looked like a sure thing this season until we got into this last week here, and SLU finishes with a 6-1-1 record, and a little more comfortable than we expected. 19 points. Second place was 15. Duquesne was 4-1-3, and then things get really jumbled after that. But regardless, it's another regular season title for SLU, and they're going to be heading into the A10 championship here, and it looks like their first game is going to be on November 4th, on Friday, and these are all campus sites as well, so SLU is in charge of its own destiny and can have 3 straight home games here if they perform well, Zach.
Yep, they will play number 8 Massachusetts on Friday, November 4th at 7 p.m. Central Time. Obviously, it will be broadcast on ESPN Plus, but if you can get out to Herman, just do it.
Yeah.
You'll have number 5 George Washington at number 4 Loyola Chicago, number 7 LaSalle at number 2 Duquesne, number 6 Dayton at number 3 VCU. What in God's name?
I know. Yeah, I mean that's where we said like things
This
got
is bizarre.
it really is. I mean, that Dayton team, number 19, very, very recently, but they finish in a tie at 3-2-3 with Loyola, and
See, I
wind
don't
up.
like. I'm all for ties in soccer, but
Yeah,
I think ties with such a short season make absolutely no sense.
well, and it wound up being a 3-way tie in the points.
Of
So
course.
Dayton could have been as high as number 4, as low as number 6, and due to tiebreakers between them and Loyola and George Washington, they wind up at number 6. So they go from possibly having a home game in the first round to now having to travel to play a number 3 seed that they were just behind in the standings. It's a cruel system when you've got that tie rule.
Yeah, that's insane. Fun note that I just kind of realized: of the 5 sports, uh, the Billikens will host of the fall 5 sports. St. Louis University could conceivably host 3 finals.
Yeah, you're right.
Volleyball will be hosting the A10 championship. Uh,
Yeah.
Men's and women's soccer could both run the gamut of their tournaments. So uh, all NCAA tournament bids seem to run through SLU right now.
That's right.
Except in volleyball, where only by geography, because they're kind of in the no man's land of the A10 volleyball standings.
You mean we haven't completely figured out this team yet? I
I
mean,
have no idea what this team is doing. I truly, I just honestly, you could flip a coin with this team. I don't know. I'm at the point where I'm just considering every time they win to be like the teams are even and they were just they had luck on their side at this point. Like I don't get it.
I think a generous reading of this would be that the number 3 through call it 8 spot in the conference, there's a lot of parity there,
Yeah.
and unpredictability. I think at this point, Loyola has really emerged as a solid number one and Davidson as a number two.
Which is wild because that is not par for the course, and it's a very weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Like,
Loyola's won 14 straight. I mean, there's, it's incredible. And then at the bottom of the league, you've got Mason, Duquesne, and Rhode Island, who are kind of clearly the bottom there. Fordham's kind of, not great, but still in that mix with Dayton, George Washington, SLU, VCU, as those kind of teams that all seem to be beating each other this season. And it's been really weird. It's been really unpredictable. And we've got some more of those kind of results in the past couple of weeks here.
yeah, yeah. The Billikens sit at fifth, and that's just not good enough in my opinion.
Mm.
They dropped three straight VCU and Loyola. 3-2 loss at VCU on the 21st. 3-0 loss at VCU on the 22nd. They lost to Loyola 3-1 on the 25th. They came back and beat Dayton 3-1 twice on Friday the 28th and Saturday the 29th. Again, this is a Dayton team. This is not the Dayton team you're used to seeing, the team that runs the table in conference that in the past. There's actually a lot of parity comparatively to previous seasons, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
This was surprising. Obviously, they lost 4 straight and 7 of their last 8 heading into the Dayton series.
Yeah.
I really didn't give them much of a chance in this one. I thought, maybe 1 of 2, maybe a 3-2 win. But, Dayton coming in 9-3 in conference in a solid third place. I just think it has a lot to do with consistency. There's not, when you had Maya Taylor out there, you had one player who could take over the game. And if she was stopped, that was it. Now you have 1 or 2 players who are a little bit above average that could take over a game, but are more easily stopped, I guess. I just don't know. I'm throwing darts at the wall here, Pete.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, Dayton, like you said, they're not kind of the clear number one or occasional number 2 that they've been in recent years. They still were 9-3 coming into this, and SLU coming off 4 straight losses, 7 of 8. You're just thinking like, okay, here's that tailspin you've kind of been expecting all year long. And no, they turn it around 3-1 back to back. Who knows? Yeah. But next they're at Fordham Friday, November 4th and Saturday the 5th. Like I said, Fordham's not great, 4-9 in conference, 10-14 overall. But given the way that this league has shaken out this season, those games on the road, no result would be surprising to me. We wrapped up the season, Zach, in field hockey. Yeah, and it felt like kind of a positive last couple of weeks for them.
Yeah, nobody has benefited greater with the influx of Division I programs than this field hockey team. 5-1 win at Maryville on Wednesday the 19th. 2-0 loss at LaSalle on the 21st. 5-2 win versus Lindenwood on the 24th at Principia. 1-0 win versus Davidson on the 28th at Principia to give the Billikens their first and only A10 win of the season. They obviously did not qualify for the A10 conference tournament. It only takes 4 teams. St. Joe's won the league going 7-0, followed by UMass, Lock Haven, and VCU. Final standings are amazing in that there's perfect symmetry up and down the win-loss columns.
Yeah, it goes, if you look at the wins, it's literally 7-6-5-4-3-2-1-0. And then the losses are 0-1-2-3-4-5-6-7 down each column. I love when things like that happen. Little joys like that in following sports. And it's
You're a big scoregami guy.
I love scoregami. And so to see that shake out that way is great. But what's even greater is last season, our last game of the season, regular season, was against Davidson, who was that other kind of bottom team in the conference. Lost that one last season and finished winless, last place in conference. This season they win that game and finish in 7th. So yes, it's a 7th place game, but there's still pride on the line. There's still progress you want to see in the program. And I think that's what we did see this season. 5 wins. It's not great, but it's the most they've had since 2006. And in that span, not all that long ago, 4 years ago, they had a winless year.
They had many winless years.
Yeah. So you've got to look at this and see a little bit of progress. Yes, they beat a few new D1 teams, but they also beat Davidson. And
Who's bad, but yes.
But regardless,
again, you're looking at a team that doesn't get hardly any institutional support. They don't even have a home field right now. Obviously with Principia and then MICDS sharing the load. So yeah, no, I'm anticipating, or not anticipating. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do next season. See if there's another progress. Cross country, just run us down the Billiken results real quick, Pete.
Yeah, so the A10 championships took place on the 29th in Mechanicsville, Virginia, just outside Richmond. The men came in 5th. Toby Gillen came in 10th overall. Loyola won on the men's side with their top 5 runners, all coming in the top 15. Surprisingly, LaSalle wasn't all that far behind. They had 3 of the top 10 runners. The women came in 12th. Their top finisher was Carly Sear, who came in 34th. Loyola wound up winning on the women's side as well, despite LaSalle having 3 of the top 5 finishers because, their 4th and 5th weren't as solid. So next up, there's the NCAA Midwest Regionals in Columbia, Missouri on November 11th. And just as a heads up, track and field winter and spring schedules are posted. And the winter season will kick off on the 3rd at Illinois State for the John Coughlin Invite. That's the indoor season. So keep an eye out there, but it was pretty cool, Zach, to see Toby Gillen, make the transition across country. I think people kind of take for granted in those sports that, you go, oh yeah, he's a distance runner in track, just slide over to cross country, but you really are learning how to pace yourself in a different way, run in different settings. So it's pretty cool to see him finish in the top 10 in his first season ever. Pretty cool.
Swimming and diving, they have an interim head coach. Mary Woods is basically a rising assistant. The press release said they sought a replacement for Halliburton after his retirement in August, but the search has been paused and Woods will lead the team for the rest of the season. It's her 3rd year on staff. She started as a grad assistant for 2 seasons, became an assistant heading into the season. She swam at DePaul in Indiana. Some results: McKendree quad meet on the 21st and 22nd. Women 2-0 beat Oklahoma Christian 2-0. Beat Oklahoma Christian 251-90. McKendree won 97-152. They won 9 individual events, 2 team events. Men 1 and 2 beat Missouri S&T, but lost to McKendree and Oklahoma Christian. Jacob Wassman won the 1 and 3 meter diving events, and Ted Ament won the 1,000 free and came within 0.17 seconds of the school record. Otherwise, not a banner day for the men. Next up is the Phoenix Fall Classic in Chicago on November 18th and 20th. Pete, that wraps up, I think, everything. Anything you got to say?
All I got to say, Zach, is I think you need some rest for your headaches here. Yes. And thank you for being a champ. I mean, people, I know Zach mentioned it earlier, but he is being a trooper tonight. He had kind of a tough weekend with headaches coming on and off. So thanks, Zach. I know this was a big episode. And get
stay
some
tuned
R&R.
for our 19-9 episode.
That's right.
We didn't even mention in the lead up.
That's right. We do have a big merch episode coming up, and we've got some special stuff. We've got a giveaway, so be sure and listen to that one. If you've made it all the way to the end, that's a good reason to do that. That tip we gave you right there.
That wraps up the week that was in Billiken Athletics. Follow us on Twitter at Midtown Mad Pod, at Peter is a tweeter, at Zach Miller MMP, on Instagram at Midtown Mad Pod. We also appreciate any and all suggestions you might have for the show. Like I said, comment down below if you have anything in the YouTube. It helps with engagement, and then also it gives us an idea of what our listeners want to hear. Leave us a review if you haven't already. 5 stars would be great. As always, Pete. Go Bills.
Go Bills.